how important is the brain to the body, right, in terms of performance, and how does it relate? Because a lot of kids, as they're learning, think that it's about just about their body. Like, if my body's ready, if I've trained physically, then I'll go out and get the performance. But they overlook the mental side because maybe they don't know and they haven't had that experience, but they don't really put two and two together. So how can we connect the two to understanding how important the brain is?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think you're spot on there in that assessment. And the way I like to look at it is the brain is our kind of like sense making machine that is predictive. And what I mean by that is at any given moment, and especially in performance situations, our brain is taking in information from our body.
Right.
How our legs feel, are they responsive and poppy, how our energy levels are, etc. And it's using that to essentially decide, you know, what should I do in this competition or situation. In the lesson I always tell athletes, especially, is how far you can go into the well isn't determined by your body. So it partially is because that's feeding you the information, right? The more mitochondria you have, maybe the better you can perform aerobically, et cetera, all that science stuff. But your brain makes the ultimate decision, right? On where we go. I like to use the analogy of it's like when you're riding or when you're driving a car and you have that gas light that comes on that warns you like, hey, you're on empty, or sometimes it literally tells you you have like 0 miles left to go. In this case, we can always go further, right? Because the engineers designed that gaslight because we're dumb humans to come on earlier than like when we actually hit zero, or when the gas gauge hits zero, we always have a little bit more gas in the tank. It's just we don't know. And the only way to find out is to keep driving until you run out of gas. And the human body, it's very similar in the sense that the feeling of fatigue is essentially that gaslight turning on, where our brain goes like, hey, you're running close to empty, you're getting close to empty. And the pain, the fatigue, all of that we feel is just telling us we're getting closer and closer. But how close we actually get is, again, our brain's prediction. It's our calculation of it saying like, how close can I get to empty given the current situation? Meaning how motivated the athlete is, how important the conversation is, how confident they are, like all these signals. And then the signals coming from the body, all our fatigue signals, how much glycogen's left in the muscle, etc. And our brain is saying, okay, I'm going to let you get a little closer to empty because this is the national championship or the Olympic trials, or this is an early season meet. I'm not letting you get that close. So when we look at it like that, and we know this, I should step back and say scientists have studied this. So for instance, when you look at marathoners, elite marathoners, we're talking the guys who are running 2 hours and change. At the end of their marathon, they still have fuel in the tank. If you took a muscle biopsy of their leg after the marathon, there is still plenty of glycogen in there, even if they bonked or hit the wall in the closing miles. The reason is because like our brain's not stupid. If it let us really completely run out of glycogen, we'd be in literal like life or death danger, right? There's no more fuel in the tank. How are we going to move, walk, etc.? So it stops us early. It's just how close we get is dependent on all these factors. And I think from a psychological side, I guess what I'd sum up is saying is like, you have some say into that if you work on the mental game, if you work on your confidence, if you look at how you approach competition, etc. One, I know I'm going on here, but I want to give one other example to really drive this home. Is there's some wonderful research that has looked at our response to competitions like a swimming match or a track meet or what have you. And what they found is that our stress response can go basically one of a couple ways, but we can simplify it. We can either see it as a threat. And when our brain thinks it's a threat, meaning I'm lining up for the race, I'm about to start, I'm about to go into the water, and my brain goes like, you're not ready for this. You're going to get beat. You're overwhelmed. When that happens, we release more cortisol, which is stress hormone. Okay. And we release less, and often our testosterone goes down. And what happens in that state is that's kind of our brain telling our body, run away, hide, avoid. And our body listens. It says, you know what? I'm not going to go as far into the well, because like I'm just going to shut down and protect myself early, because this is a threat. It's kind of linked back to when we're on the savannah and we see, I don't know, a lion, and it's like run away or like play dead,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But opposite of that, and researchers have found that like we can have a challenge response, which is instead of cortisol, we get more adrenaline. Instead of our testosterone going down, it goes up, and we feel more aggressive and willing to take responsible risks. And again, what research tends to show us is in that challenge state, that stress hormones are sending a signal that says like, hey, let's go fight the lion, or like, let's take on this race. In which way we go is, again, it comes back to the information that our brain has, the information that we have on the mental side. Do you see this? Have you done the work? Have you put in the miles? Have you put in the yards? Are you confident you can take this race on? Are you seeing this as, hey, I'm going to see what I can do and try and play to win, versus I'm just going to play prevent defense and try not to get embarrassed and lost. All of those signals and information comes in to determine, which way we go in terms of our stress response, which then impacts, what our body can give in terms of physical performance.